is brought down because people aren't.
You're preaching, you're speaking my language. I mean, that's why all this has got to cost, whatever we do, it's got to cost the people that we're delivering it to something. It doesn't
Right.
have to be cold hard cash, but we've got to take something that you value in exchange for what we're going to give you, because it's going to give you more value, right?
Right.
And then we'll give you back what you gave us, because it was just a deposit. We just wanted you to be engaged,
Right.
right? And then, I mean, but yeah, I mean, the story you're telling there is precisely why I don't want to do anything for free. It's not because I want to make myself rich. It's just I know how people treat free stuff. It can be a free Maserati. If it's free, you'll crash it and not think twice about it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Definitely.
that's just the way you love life. But
But,
keep going.
but bottom line to that whole story, you asked me to tell you a moment that was dark for me.
Right.
And in return, what I gave you is not so much how I reacted, how I coped, what I did in a bad moment. What I gave you is a decent moment that I made great, through inspiration, through action, through wanting to value opportunity, to wanting to create others value for opportunity for others, So that was that. I also have other, personal dark moments that I transcended, and other, group stories that I transcended also.
Yeah,
And
go ahead. Sorry.
I'll tell you real quick one individual moment,
Mhm.
because I feel like that was more in a group setting. One individual like dark moment that I transcended was not playing for 314 days, which we talked a little bit about already. And
Now I'm interested.
the biggest thing about that is, okay, I've been thinking about this a lot. I'm like, Carlos, there's many other people in the country, in the world, that sit on the bench for 314 days, maybe more. Now, why is that significant and impactful to me? Why? Well, it's because it's 70 miles in the middle of nowhere. 60 miles, 75, 80 miles from any city, and 1,000 miles from the people that I love. So what is the psychosocial impact of that? And what is the impact of that in terms of me wanting to create? Okay, I'm by myself and I'm out here and I'm creating, and this is my purpose. My purpose is to create. My purpose is to get better. My purpose is to develop, right? But when that can't happen and I am still in a petri dish, in a bubble, how do I cope? How do I survive? How do I get back?
How did you survive?
And that's exactly and that's exactly how I transcended the failure and it got out of the dark moment. First of all, it's in three parts. The first one is I learned that being negative sucks. It sucks. It's just a horrible way to live, to doubt myself every day, to question everything, to say, hey, you know what? My dad used to tell me. He used to feed into me. I was young, and if I could tell him again, I would have told him, hey, you suckered me, because he would call me on the phone and I'll be crying. And he would say, hey, he would always just say, Alex, calm down. I can buy you a plane ride home any minute. And that for me was dangerous, because in my head, after I hung up that phone, it was always like, man, I need to go home. I need to quit. I need to do this. And
Did he say anything else, or was that all he needed to say?
hold up, I don't want to forget something.
Yeah, no. I see the inspiration happening as we speak.
Yeah, so it's like I really didn't want to quit. So those really dark places, man, I would go walking in the desert for miles by myself. Just walk. I mean,
No,
pure desert. I
no
mean,
trail, no nothing. Just
nope, snakes and scorpions and tarantulas and foxes and hyenas and all that. Like, I would go walking for miles and just like, and just sit, or I'd go out in the field and just like sit and just have it just being negative took me to a dark place where nothing was being created. No energy was being cultivated. It was just like stagnant, and it was just very inefficient, and that brings me to my three things. Joy. Everything I do is kind of pivoted from joy, abundance, and happiness. Those are three things, my pillars of life: joy, abundance, and happiness. Like if I'm not coming out of a corner, I'm not doing something in result of, or in spite of, or because of, then I'm not doing it, you know? And I need to change direction if I don't have joy, abundance, and happiness. And so that's where I kind of came up with that. So I always tell people, if you want to live a positive life, if you want to be positive, just be negative and see how enjoyable it is, and then you'll probably change, you know. Unless you like being negative. Some people like being negative, whatever. So it was being positive was one thing. The second and third thing are being creative, and being in stimulating the mind. I could say being intellectual. So what does that mean? The whole thing that I'm trying to explain is, how did I get out of this rut of not playing for 314 days in a very controlled experimental environment? Well, I stimulated my creativity by making videos, by sending them home, by putting them all over the internet, and the co-founder of GoPro messaging me and appreciating me and my passion that I put into this video, which I'll send you after. So that's one thing. I'm like, wow, he sees this and he's reposting on GoPro's page, and millions of people are seeing it. And like people back home are like, is Alex famous all of a sudden? I'm like, I don't know how this happened. I'm not famous, I swear. I'm actually struggling, you know? You see what I mean? And people are like, wow, he's really successful. No, I haven't played for 300 days, you know? So
why was it that you weren't allowed to play?
It wasn't that I wasn't allowed to play. It was that I was approaching the game in a way that I was doing the same thing and expecting different result. You know, for example, if you're shooting a jump shot in basketball, if you don't fix your form, if somebody tells you you're shooting with bad form, and you're like, no, I'm not. That's an ego thing, right? So then you eventually get to a point where you have to change in order to be better. So you fix it. And then you don't approach the same problem with the same solution. You approach the same problem with a different solution, therefore changing the outcome.
So basically, you were disallowing yourself from playing.
Exactly. It was purely my fault. And ego's another part of it as well, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, but the creativity aspect stimulated something within me to say, oh, wow, first of all, your voice is being heard. Regardless of your artistic, creative playing voice, your voice is heard regardless. So that was one thing. That empowered me. Number two was the intellectual piece. Like I started writing. I started looking up. You mentioned Tony Robbins and Jordan Peterson. My guys were like, you know, man, I have like so many different like philosophers, sports guys. Like I can pull up my books and name a whole bunch of people.
You got some Larry Bird? You got some Larry Bird?
Oh yeah, I have like we can go through. That's another talk.
So
But bottom line was
some Magic Johnson, some quotes from Magic.
Yes, bottom line was that I was seeking inspiration. I needed to hear from other people how they got through their failures, and I needed to stimulate my mind. I needed to write. I needed to read, and I needed to stimulate my mind, and that's how I did it intellectually. Because also I was at a disadvantage from school, like, you know, here and when I'm at UCLA and in college, I found that stimulation through education because it's at a higher level, right? Mm-hmm. But there I didn't have that, so my stimulation intellectually was different. So with the combination of creativity and intellect, of those both being stimulated, and reminding myself that I am more than just a soccer player, I am being heard, I do have the capabilities to think and to be stimulated in that way in my mind. Then I took that back to the game, and I got out of my rut because I allowed myself what I had experienced in those things brought back, and I was able to fix my technique. Not only was I able to fix my technique, but more importantly, more powerfully, I was able to